Do 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 do. Alright, let's get right back to it loud. Alright, we're gonna continue our cross-examination of Marshall. Guess we know for sure he was the Detective Goodman.
Ayun na. I-press na natin. Dito na ba tayo?
I guess so, yeah.
Eh, mami na pala siya eh.
We're not quite done yet. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. We're trying to figure out the reason why he did all of it. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report.
Pero sino talaga kaya sumaksak sa kanya? Hindi naman makukulong si Marshall kasi okay naman si Mickens eh.
Yeah.
Very light lang ang ano niya, punishment.
Same for Meekins. I'm pretty sure Meekins is gonna get out just fine. Because this thing proves his innocence.
Oo naman, si Mickens walang problema.
I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor, in the prosecutor's office parking lot.
Oh.
The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But it could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck on the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Officer Megan, so I knocked him out. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off. Let's just say I was a little surprised. I don't plan on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of person.
Kita mo, nag-advantage pa niya.
Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his race this year.
Wow.
When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Usually only ever Gibbs the opposite. Salary drops. Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. With me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? Cleaned it up? I don't know what to say.
Grabe.
So you knocked Officer Meekins out and... Dun, 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 dun. So, you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it up in there. What was Officer Meekins doing out during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is on that day, the person who woke Meekins back up was also Marshall, I guess.
Hmm.
But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates that a crime took place.
Nga, ang daming blood eh. Hindi naman yung inislash lang yun ng konti.
What, are you blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Yes, he stole the entire evidence room. Actually, no I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone.
Dala naman ni Goodman, kaya may nagka-interest pang iba. Yun ang pumatay kay Goodman.
Somehow, the rubber glove was left. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. That would explain why it was already open. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing?
Go ahead,
Far away, partner. It's free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer. This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. That can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. That case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out. But there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with the incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think is his real reason. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I'd better take another look at the files. Had we ever pressed this one? We were already in the second statement when we loaded the save.
Tapos na pa?
I'm not sure.
Hindi pa?
But we are back at the beginning. When you say it, you mean... You even have to ask partner.
Hindi pa.
SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It's going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. What did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When the case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence.
Si Goodman yun.
Yeah? I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner, that case is mine. Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance, that's why I...
Ito na, ang ulit na tayo. Saan na tayo?
We gotta present evidence. You know why he can't let this case go. If not, I recommend going to the court record.
Saan ako pupunta? Sa court record option?
Present. Dun 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 dun.
Saan na yung kasulat yung pangalan ng kapatid niya?
Dun dun
Doon.
dun 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 dun
Ayan o.
dun 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 dun.
Witness,
Dun,
then,
dun.
head prosecutors and non-extension. Executive investigators. Damon Grandana. Bruce Goodman ng health. Executive Damon Grandana Sky. Okay. Dito, i-represent natin. So kahit na anong ganito, ang mamimili ako.
It's always gotta be the correct testimony, obviously. You can't just go about showing things willy-nilly.
Ito. You can just forget the SL. Tama? Present?
Go with your gut. Officer Marshall, I think I understand.
Tama ako?
I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident files here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In the list of murder victims, Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
Prosecutor
What?
din pala.
A prosecutor? Must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. Bruh. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then deputy chief of police.
Ito?
That's Marshall. that's the other Marshall. This is Neil Marshall.
Saan si Neil Marshall? Ah, ayun.
The group of detectives I was part of worked under them.
Angel, Star, tsaka si Goodman.
We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence, and that was all we needed. He was arraigned and then incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight.
Oh?
And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened.
Hindi tuloy na-reopen kasi nawawala yung case file.
Well, more like Goodman got killed. Not really cold, solved.
Kasi closed siya, solved siya.
Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room.
Mulit?
Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's got to be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. We're back here. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. It seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. Of the mysteries at the police department have been solved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. Arrgh! I rest my case. It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant.
Objection!
Hold it! Your Honor, wait! Emma! The defense has an objection, a scientific objection. Right? No. What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright? Are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor. All I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
Kasi gumamit ng gloves.
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again.
Pumasok sa evidence room.
So, did you find something?
No.
Eh,
Huh? Sorry. I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
ano naman palang kwenta?
Um, is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student.
And I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them... Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you.
Me?
Oh boy!
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright.
Wait lang.
With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark.
Another investigation.
Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here.
Diba? Kaya ano to, diba? Gabi show.
Yeah, that thing never appeared in the
Napahawak.
video.
Hindi ba?
Yeah? Is there a problem with this?
Meron na siya sa video o wala pa?
It never
Ay,
popped up
kita.
anywhere. Yeah, despite being in plain sight. You can watch the video again if you want.
Sige.
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use.
Sige nga, panoorin ko nga muna saglit.
Go ahead. Court record.
Ayan, kita naman na. Kasi natatakpan ng ulo. Ito. That's why, no? Okay.
But still, if we can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor.
If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now.
What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing?
There is a big problem. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction.
Kasi
The only
bukas na
thing
siya
that
nung
seems
dumating
clear
si-
is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
Nung dumating si Marshall eh.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing.
Missing?
You mean something hasn't been drawn on there?
Yes, something that when drawn will completely change the meaning of this blood mark. Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans?
Pindot ka ba?
Obviously.
Ha?
What do you think is missing in these floor plans? You should know.
Ano?
What
Ano?
is missing in the floor plans? The jar? Possible.
Which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans? Baka mabawasan ako din.
Obviously.
The question is which item can
You know what
prove-
item is not there? What's covering those blood prints?
It should be plain obvious, John, now that you've watched the video again.
Ikaw? Ha?
You can't just rely on me for the answers. It's much more satisfying to have it figured out by yourself, Ja.
Yan ang pinag-aanahan ko sa kanyang gloves eh.
Atraconine, my love.
Yun na lang? Ito or gloves?
Just go with your gut. What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? Ooh. Ugh. That's right, so long as the Blue Badger is dancing there, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What? So that means, just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found in that locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there.
Mr. Wright, think it through scientific. When did you get here?
Emma!
On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker.
So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in. Just one moment! I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom! It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time.
5:15 to eh. Ito hindi.
Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
Ayun. Pero may mga dugo na ba sa floor? Ba't hindi pa nakita? Ni Marshall at ni Meekins.
Who knows?
Kasi hindi naman kita yung sahig, di ba?
Yeah.
Ito yung basag na ano, na jar.
Yeah.
Hindi kita yung sahig eh.
That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the
sa'yo, para kang yung ano,
security
Badger.
tape had been proven to be a fake. But I like this song. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred.
May pumasok pa na 777.
When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that you're on the right track, baby. Prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right. The blood mark on that locker proves this. Very well. Then tell us. When did this first incident occur, as Mr. Edgeworth said? Proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that.
Yung paglalag.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? Jaja.
Pumasok na si Miles. Dapat nakita na niya yung dugo.
And so did Mike Meekins, Bruce,
Good
and Mike. Well, technically that was Marshall.
Ba't di ba na-update yan?
Well, it is technically true. It was Goodman's ID, so there's no need to change it.
Nga pala, no? Present ko na ka?
Go ahead. If you believe what you believe is you believe. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An
Kaya
ID
nawawala.
card. Oh, the ID card record. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at
4:15.
Let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. Come on. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, oh right, the blood was only visible thanks to Emma.
Kasi nalinis na.
Yeah, just like with the water and the blood back with Lana in the parking lot.
Kaya wala na.
Both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
20 minutes. 40 kasi sabi. So, siya kasi ang pinagbibintangan una.
Ja.
So, ngayon ito 20, 30, 40, 50. So, 30 minutes kaya.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at that chart again.
May 20 minutes pagitan niya.
There's only one other card number remaining. 77777. 7 sevens. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand.
Oo nga.
He must have entered along with the real murderer.
Sumabay.
Yep. It was a ploy. It's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 777. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 7777777. That's 17 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present.
Why?
What?
Why?
Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7 sevens belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher.
Wala, sigan.
Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority.
Ano? Authority.
Authority. An official charge filed against an executive is accepted.
Ihingan mo na siya, ano? Ano oras na ba? Naka 30 minutes na tayo. Oh, 15 minutes na lang pala eh.
Yeah, we're almost done with the trial. We should finish it and end the episode there. We're almost done. If we continue playing every day, we will finish it within this week.
Sa birthday sa baba, menthol ang amoy.
What?
Menthol. Mint. It's peppermint.
An official charge. You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes. No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana?
Yeah.
Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course, we've looked up her ID number, and it's not 77s. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
Sila ni Gan kasi ang ano dun, di ba? Executive ano.
Oh. You need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor. I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Bruh. Lana. I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor.
Dahil pa kasing paligoy-ligoy pala.
During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in the court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't!
I don't have to, Officer Marshall.
Look, why won't you answer him?
Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana! Even if it involved forging evidence.
Umami na siya. Nasyak silang lahat na tahimik ang buong
See?
court.
That's what I'm talking about. No. No! Order! Order! Order!
Lana's remarks caused such a stir. Chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled.
The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day.
We're done.
Jack,
Save mo na. Kalimutan mo. Ako, sana siya. Okay, hindi na ako sa baba. Masarap sa baba. Train. Bukas akong aircon. Mas lalong masarap. Sa buong aircon.
bro, we've only played for 40 minutes.
40 minutes lang.
Yeah?
10-15 pa lang. 50 minutes na tayo lalaki.
Yep. Fine.